As well. So
Add sixes, add nines,
Well, it's been a number of months since I've released any videos, and I've got a little bit of forced time at home here. We're all struggling across the country as the coronavirus is taking hold and devastating some families and individuals. Most of us are pretty safe so far, but my heart goes out to those affected. So I've got some time on my hands here, and I thought I would get back to my original intent, which was to create a series of videos geared toward guitarists that are interested a little bit in music theory and how that relates to their instrument, and to help them become a better player all around and a better musician. There's a debate that seems to persist among some musicians, and that is, why bother with music theory? That question into two parts. Number one, is music theory essential? And number two, is music theory helpful? Well, let's take number one. Is music theory essential? It's pretty obvious that a lot of great music has been written or performed by people who have had very little, if any, formal training in music or music theory. Can a visual artist create a masterpiece without knowing color theory or having had formal training? Of course, I would assume. In fact, artists of all kinds can share aesthetics and technical abilities that they've learned through observing other artists and through trial and error and hard work. And we've all seen incredible artists who have apparently inherited some gifts from above. So the answer to number one is, of course, no. Music theory is not essential. Now, let's take number two. Is music theory helpful? And I guess that depends upon what your goals are. Do you want to become more diverse in your musical expression, either your playing or your writing? Or would you like a system that can help you to isolate and identify ideas, and perhaps more quickly than trial and error, which I kind of liken to the hunt and peck method in typing? That's my MO in that department. Or are you just perpetually curious? I'd say the answer to number two is yes. Music theory can be very helpful. So what is music theory anyway? Here's my stab at a definition.
it's a formalized method of observing, analyzing, utilizing, and enjoying the elements of music. So our most common approach is through studying harmony, melody, and rhythm as we observe it in Western music, but
there's magic in all musical systems throughout the world, and sometimes you just can't analyze it, and we know it when we hear it. It's magic. Well, let's look at a few pros and cons, shall we say. And I will include the links to all the references in the description below. According to Steve Lukather, and I quote from an interview on Guitar Wank podcast, learning harmony and theory is the most important thing I've ever done to my playing, ever. Wow. And Frank Gambale told Rick Beato during an interview on Rick's show that you've got to learn music. You got to get into the nuts and bolts of music. Push your understanding as far as you can. Pretty compelling stuff. By the way, I've got a little bit of Scott Henderson's latest release in the background called People Mover. You should check it out. If you think Scott didn't study harmony and music theory, then you're mistaken, I'm sure. If you want to play at such an advanced level and that complex, there's really no way around it unless you're superhuman or transplanted from Mars. But some may ask, Can dissecting and analyzing something take the magic away? Well, I suppose it's possible. Mark Twain, who grew up as Samuel Clemens, lived on the Mississippi as a child, and he was fascinated with the river and the riverboats that traveled it. And as a young man, he studied for 2 years to acquire his steamboat pilot's license. Well, to quote Robert Persig in Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, after Mark Twain had mastered the analytic knowledge needed to pilot the Mississippi, he discovered the river had lost its beauty. So, you'll have to decide for yourself. As for me, I think it's worth the risk, and I'll continue to make these little videos trying to explain some of the magic by using music theory as one of the tools. I do hope you join me for the riverboat ride. Oh boy.